receiving information from the sage
so I
on
think
the
that's
stage.
why. See, I think that's why the ancient Egyptians worshipped the eye, Horus's eye, because it's open. They weren't worshiping intellect; they were worshiping attention. It's different. It's really different. And intellect, that's Milton's like authoritarian demon. Attention is different because when I pay it, and I really learned this in therapy, the best way to help someone move forward is to listen to them, because then they can talk. And then you respond non-verbally, and that helps them figure out where they're clear and not clear. And then you can ask them questions like, well, you said that a minute ago, and then you said that, and they seem to be contradictory, or maybe I'm just stupid. Can you clear up that contradiction? And they unfold. Their possibilities unfold as a consequence of talking, but you have to listen, and that's attention. And so it's the listening that's such an important part of that collective transformation of ideas, right?
Do podcasts work this way?
Well, look, this is cool, man. You think about this. So I'm stunned at how positive the YouTube comments are on the dialogues we have like this. They're so positive. It's just ridiculous. You can't believe it. And so they work like that when they work.
Yeah.
Right? And you know when they work because you're in the flow state. And that flow state is an indication of being possessed by that niche switching capacity. And there's a religious dimension to that because it's so important to our survival that it's associated with our deepest values. And we fall into that and love it. People love that. And that's where education takes place too, on that edge. That's that edge of transformation. And being there is way better than being right.
Yeah, it is. And play,
it's way better.
Play requires attention, right? You aren't successful in play with someone else if you're distracted.
It's a dance.
You lose the ball. Exactly. It's a dance. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with this. And it's funny, we hear often about the terrible fact of what people experience on Twitter and YouTube comments and all of this. We have very often existed in a state that just didn't mirror people's description of how terrible these things were. And then sometimes the narrative shifts on you. And so it is almost like a flow state that you reach and the audience resonates and the comments look a certain way. And then something happens. Sometimes something intervenes from the outside to disrupt it. And I guess I fear more and more that there is so much at stake in the sense making that goes on in these forums that something is intervening for economic reasons or reasons of power, that in other words,
that could easily happen.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully it won't, but it could.
I think it's already happening. The idea is
look, we have to fight against, that's part of the eternal battle, right? That the imposition of what's right against that flow state, that's there forever. I mean, the ancient Egyptians knew that. They had Osiris. Their god Osiris was a representation of that totalitarian proclivity. That's the evil uncle in The Lion King. It's this, and it is the existential psychologists, who I like a lot. One of the things they did was lay out thrownness. It's right. Well, what do we always contend with? Well, we always contend with the evil uncle. That's the tyrannical face of history. And it's always something against which, the hero battles, for example, and then often incarnates in his old age, unfortunately. But I mean, I'm optimistic about this, and it is play, and and so people love to be invited. That's what's cool about this too, is you invite people into this, you entice them into this, you don't tell them they have to do it. And then they're so happy. It's so cool. It's so wonderful to be able to do this. And then you also think you want to have someone you actually disagree with to talk to, because you can actually play with them more deeply if they're being honest, partly because they're way more unexpected than someone you already agree with. And that also means that flow state can be deepened because you get farther, right? You get more novelty that gets incorporated and understood. And so that's really, that's fun too.